Hey y'all, join me as I talk you guys through how I plein air paint. You can also call plein air painting painting outside. The reason it has a French name is because plein air painting as we know it today gained popularity in France and other parts of Europe, but in the late 1800s. The reason it gained popularity during this time is actually because of the invention of tube paint. Yes, paint has not always come in tubes, as I believed up until relatively recently. Prior to that, paint was often mixed either on the spot, or if it was made in bulk, it was stored in animal bladders, which, is not the most practical setup. So once the invention of paint in metal tubes came around in 1841, all of a sudden painters were a little more mobile. It was a mix between this newfound mobility as well as the growing art movement of the day, being Impressionism, which is a real shift to focusing on light as subject matter that caused painters in Europe to go to the great outdoors and paint exactly what they were looking at. And while there's lots of different painting styles, the larger movement was defined as a lot more academic studies prior to the movements of the Impressionists, which means to say that generously someone might go outdoors and sketch, but the real work of putting together a painting happened over many, many months and even sometimes years, diligently working on something in studio. So what I love about plein air painting is that it's so reactive. It's you're sitting in nature and you're looking at the world around you. And whenever I was putting together this video, I wanted to include lots of shots of me walking and looking, because I think one of the most important parts of plein air painting is looking for your subject matter. Now, admittedly, no matter what your painting style is, this is a huge part of your process and one that doesn't always get its fair shake. A lot of it happens in your mind, in your mind's eye. Sometimes artists will do sketchbooks and make notes, but it's all pretty personalized. And I find that plein air painting is a little bit of a moment where we all kind of do the same thing, and that is wander aimlessly until we find something that sort of strikes us. And for me, it's always an initial sensation of something about this looks right. And then my years of making composition kicks in, and I start to look for a horizon line and the subject and all of those things that start to come together. There's a really good book by Edgar Payne that's all about outdoor painting compositions. I recommend it even if you don't want to paint plein air, because some of the key compositional lessons in that book can transfer to all different kinds of painting styles. But after that, it's kind of just setting in motion a normal painting. It's starting with larger shapes and form. A lot of times plein air painting can be really overwhelming because instead of having a pre-cropped or curated photo or even painting from life, but with a little still life setup or a portrait, what you're painting feels pretty contained. But using, binocular vision, which is just having two eyes and taking in the world, is quite a bit different than one point perspective on a camera. And so you do have to make some choices about how you see the world. I find that while a lot of times this can be sort of messy and overwhelming, especially the first few times you plein air paint, oftentimes the feeling of the painting mimics that response we have in real life and we see something that's worth painting and we snap a picture. And the final thing I'll say about plein air painting is that the purpose of sitting outside in nature and observing a messy world with changing light and leaves and dirt flying into your canvas and bugs and all the things that come with plein air painting is it's really a record of a moment and not the attempt to make a perfect painting. And I sometimes think plein air is the best way to learn this because there are so many things outside of your control. It is overwhelming. I'm a seasoned painter at this point, and I always have this feeling of being humbled and sort of surrendering, and it's not my best work. But at the same time, the actual experience of sitting and painting is more rewarding in some ways. And if you have no desire to plein air paint, that's totally fine. No one's going to force you. But if you are someone who really struggles to get out of your head when it comes to a painting, if you can shift your perspective to be about being in the moment and just the joy of observing everything around you and sort of finding peace with the finished product not being perfect, then plein air is kind of like jumping into the deep end of that. You really will sink or swim. You'll be so frustrated that you don't finish the painting, Or you'll say, this is going to be a very imperfect record of my moment. And I find that when you can sort of lean into the latter, you really break through and you figure out why so many people are entranced by the act of plein air painting. But I'm curious if you guys have ever plein air painted, if it's something you're curious about. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned painter or if you've never even picked up paintbrushes. I do think there's a lot you can learn from sitting in nature and sort of taking in the world. And I, on that note, want to express that you can go somewhere to a park inside your car and paint what you see through your windshield, or you can go hike in the woods and find some secluded spot. All plein air painting experiences are valid, and thank you for watching this video.